All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let's check the picture. Let's check the sound. Hopefully everything is working. Very busy week for us, and the this week and next week going to be very busy um, as we are moving forward with the deployment of Ghost testnet version 3. So let me just make sure that we're all good. Are we live? Are we not live? Okay, just making sure. Wan Chin Chuan, good morning. All right, everything's working. All right. Everything is here. Everybody is watching. Whoever is watching. Well, no, how to say? No question. Not as many people are watching us this week because of what happened. So let me make certain statements, in case they matter. For those who are not watching us today, maybe they will, maybe they're not. So, because there's a specific clan, uh, as we call them, pool, right, that we had potential issues with this last week. So first of all, the growth continues. We are at 130 nodes at least as of this as of yesterday. To be frank, we probably at a higher number, but kind of trying to move slightly lower. Good morning, Crypto Bureau. So 130 nodes. We are top 38 chains at this point of time, which is 42 percentile, which is amazing. And here, I think we are already at Lorenzo. Good morning. I think we're already at the lithium level with 144 nodes. As you can see, the market cap slightly dropped a little bit. Like we have 600 million here, 150 to 50 to 120. We beat lots of Web 2.5s where uh, with with much larger market caps and billions of dollars. So that's great. So most likely what's going to happen is uh, kind of the negative outliers are multi-billion-dollar companies, whatever projects. The positive outliers are multi-billion, essentially like almost $1 trillion projects. And then in the middle, we'll see all type of different type of market caps, like 600 million here and 150 and 250 and 120. So that's just to be expected. That's just what is to be expected. Okay. Now the next one is this, right? So and that's kind of the point of the conversation today. Is like this is the rough allocation. Again, we don't collect the data, we don't track it. We're just trying to make it very super approximate allocation as far as who is who, right? So when we call pool, some people are asking like, oh, do you have pools? We don't have pools. People like it's all independent at this point of time. Nominated proof of stake consensus does imply that we have proof of stake plus nominated proof of stake, so you can have nominators essentially clustering together into a pool under their specific validator. So they don't validate themselves. They just, Ojin, good morning. They don't validate themselves. They just group up under that specific validator, but they do offer the stake. So how this works is every single validator will have to have a stake, right? It has to happen. It's a proof of stake. Um, Now, why is it possible today not to have a stake? Well, existing validators do have a stake of 69 Casper, which is allocated to them in the Genesis file. That's why we're doing all these elections, right? So validators, we have 10 existing validators of Ghost Chain testnet version 2, 2.0. Um, and on that testnet, we have 690 Casper allocated to 10 validators. We've been mentioning this like many times. Now, what about the other 100, whatever, 130 nodes? Well, 130 nodes, they're nodes. They don't need the stake to be a node. You can be a full node, just like you can be a full node of any chain, any Web3 chain, where you sync in the ledger, you still connecting to the peers. You even can act as a boot node sometimes, but you are not a validator. So those are different roles. They exist everywhere in Bitcoin, Ethereum, everywhere. It's the same deal. Like we're not trying to create anything new here. Um, but these pools likely in the future, most likely, could be acting as independent validators, or they could be acting as validator nominator type of situations, right? So, for example, this 40% pool, maybe it's not going to be 40% of validators. maybe it could be less validators, but maybe 40% of the existing stake will be clustered under the validators in this group, right? Because like this clan or whatever we're going to call it, right? For example, they trust each other, and you can put their stakes under the name. Same thing applies to this clan. Same thing applies to this clan, right? So it's for every clan is the same thing. And the reason why this chart is very important is to show the distribution of forces. And some people even ask us not to put these charts because they're like making everybody scared. And that's true, but at the same time, that's the reality. That's the reality of the situation. This pool in particular was 45%. Now it's back to 40% because this pool increased slightly, this pool increased slightly, that pool increased slightly. So, I think this one took 10%, this one took like another 5%. So there's definitely some type of continuation of progress. But overall, this is just to show us what the risks are. And of course, the risk is this pool can easily take if they expand a little bit, especially if they expand fast, they can at that split of a second have 51%, rewrite the whole ledger, do whatever they want, like do 51% attacks, and overall impact the consensus and governance. And that's very important for everybody else to recognize, right? So everybody else has to. We had a couple calls with community members, with whales, and that was a great question. Like, why should I be running more nodes? Well, you don't have to, but if you're relying on other people to run nodes, you are doing it wrong. Right? So if everybody's relying on somebody else running nodes, that's a really, really bad premise. Like, if you think that your ass is going to be saved by somebody else, you are not really protecting your assets. How to protect your assets is buy a gun, buy a shotgun, buy, I don't know, 2 fighting pit bulls, um, super fast car, lots of safes, like physical safes, right? Like against earthquake, fire, theft, and whatever. Like buy, all types of stuff to protect yourself, right? And also like lobby stuff in Congress, right? Like that's exactly what the rich are doing, right? Like the rich are protecting themselves with military, with security, with law, with whatever they can against any type of situations, with insurance, right? So if you think that somebody else will protect you in this Web3 environment, you are wrong. And the reason why this is cool and the reason why this is relevant to Ghost and some other Web3 projects, but not the majority of projects, because the majority of projects are permissioned. There are all types of limitations on all types of things, such as let's raise up the minimum requirement. Because if we raise up the minimum requirement, we can protect ourselves against certain clans. Like even we see this map. Certain clans will not be able to run that many nodes if the requirements are 16 gigabytes of RAM or 32 gigabytes of RAM, right? Like this is just too expensive now. Oh, so we can eradicate, the retail essentially. Like, let's only deal with B2B because B2B it's only going to be 10 stakeholders to negotiate with, and it's easier to negotiate with 10 stakeholders. But that's why those chains are not fun. Like what we experienced last week, I think definitely enduring, but that's Web3. The reason why we had it is because we are a Web3 chain. And yes, it comes with lots of benefit as far as the potential market cap is likely to be high. The overall adoption is higher. The number of transactions is likely to be higher. So from monetary perspective, although Ghost, JNV, everything is the utility stuff, from monetary perspective, there could be more adoption, and therefore that adoption may realize into high numbers. But it also comes with risks. Like you cannot just sit on your ass and be a freaking passive hodler. It's not going to help you. If you're a passive hodler, you could be fucked. I'll be just honest, right? Like you have to act. You have to act. You have to be politically connected to other clans, trying to negotiate, trying to influence. You also have to have your own forces trying to run as many nodes as you can, or have forces that will be supporting you in case there's some type of takeover. Like it's all super important. You have to have leverage. You have to have leverage. And this leverage is achieved for council members that have huge allocations, for example. So that's good. So that those allocations could be used. They also have insane level of governance originally, right? But for the small players, first of all, small players can, buy certain seats of the council, because we're going to discuss this as well, because there have been like lots of wrong rumors. We'll discuss that. So you can buy council seats. You cannot buy validated seats. You cannot buy nodes. That's fucking stupid. Like whoever created that rumor has no idea. Like has zero idea about web. Like has zero idea about blockchain. Like it's just they're just insane. You can purchase the seats at this point of time with not Casper, but with GMV allocations. You can purchase that. Absolutely. But that's mostly going to be for the governance, right? Like the governance is pretty insane for that. So anybody can purchase it right now, and it's pretty permissioned. Absolutely, it's permissioned. But it was a lot more permissionless 4 years ago when we started this whole thing. So it was open to pretty much everybody, to participate. We just didn't advertise much because we're trying to be as compliant as possible. So, but now it's still possible. So it's still like anybody can still do it. It's just the level is slightly higher. Or simultaneously, you can bring, as certain clients are doing, you can just bring lots of users and present an awesome fighting, companion, right? And yes, we can fight together, and we will ultimately fight together. But that's the beautiful thing about Web3. We fight for ourselves. Each one of us fights for ourselves, and that needs to be understood. We are strongly incentivized by our own self-interests. But while doing that, we are improving the network. Why? So let's assume this claimed 40%. It was 45%, maybe even 46%, maybe a couple of weeks ago. So other clans decided to do what? They like, oh shit, like this clan is getting to 51%. That's very dangerous. We need to run more nodes. Let's bring more people. Not because they want to bring more people. They are scared for their stakes. They're scared for their assets. They want to protect themselves. While doing that, they are naturally bringing more nodes. So now this clan is slightly diluted, and it may be even more diluted as we go forward. Hopefully it is. Why? Not that, I don't want this clan to succeed by no means. I just want to make sure that this clan is becoming bigger, this clan is becoming bigger, that clan is becoming bigger. Or there's a new clan altogether that is also diluting everybody altogether. And that's how distribution of forces is made. That's the whole point of Web3. That's how it's supposed to be. And that's beautiful, right? It's lots of risk, but it's insane amount of reward. It's insane amount of reward. And the beautiful thing about Ghost is you guys are still early. Like people say, oh, with Bitcoin, we are still early. With Ghost, you are extra early. So you can wait. Sure, you can wait like with Bitcoin. Bitcoin was trading $100. Yeah, you can wait for 5 years, sure. But then 5 years later, now that's, the price is no longer $100. Now it's $20,000. Oh, that's money, right? And then if you wait another 3 years, now that's 100 grand. So you can keep waiting, or you can just join now, right? It's up to you, whatever. Now, so on the side of this allocation, what's next? So, we had definitely some misunderstandings. Misunderstandings resulted in some pretty abrupt behavior, which was completely unacceptable from some of the whales and some of the ex-whales who decided to leave by themselves. Nobody was excluded, by the way, forcefully. People who left, they left themselves voluntarily. You guys can check that easily under recent actions in the Telegram group. I think the origination of the conflict arose from the following. So, first of all, there was some weird stuff happening with one of the pools, one of the clans, whatever, internal rotation, that's their business. Like, that's not our business, that's their business. They can do whatever. But I think the situation, those were the 7 finalists based on the Casper balance. And the conflict was that I believe this address, because the specific feedback was this address became number 2, or actually became number 1 so fast within a day that there was an impression that somebody sold that validator seed. First of all, that's fucking stupid. Why that's fucking stupid? This is a validator on a testnet, for God's sake. On a testnet. It's a testnet v3. Why would anybody buy a seed on a testnet? It's bizarre. It's just fucking bizarre. It just shows me that these people have been part of Web 2.5 projects where everybody can be purchased, everybody can be sold, everything is for sale, and they just and maybe within their own pools, everything is, or certain things are for sale, and that's why they're making these completely ridiculous claims. More importantly, me personally, I didn't send any balance, and I think I do know who sent this balance. Most importantly, this person here they didn't win. They didn't win. Right? The nomination was allocated to this seat, so I believe I believe that this is screwed up, but in any case, 22.59 Casper balance was not the winning balance. They didn't win. So somebody lobbied them through, because guess what? We have 10 validators, plus we have I think, almost 100 whales altogether with some Casper balances. So anybody could support them. And you can see by the transactions which validators support them and also which users supported them. So it's clear. And yet this person still didn't win. But the argument was, oh, uh, Ghost is not permissionless because somebody can buy the validator seed. First of all, let's assume that's even true. If somebody can buy the validator seed from other validators, that's still permissionless. I can do whatever I want. Like, that's the whole point. I can do anything I want to get other people's attention. I can, sleep with you. I can do some dirty, nasty things, 18 plus, that you will enjoy. Just vote me in. I can bribe you. I can force you. I can threaten you. I can use carrots on you. I can do whatever. That's the whole beautiful thing about politics, that you can do whatever you want, obviously within the legal, legally, to ensure that you got these balances. Another thing that, lots of people missed is any validators at any point of time, 10 validators today, at any point of time, they could have said, listen, we want to elect that person. So this whole situation with Casper was just for engagement. You need to read the governance more carefully. Like, if you don't know how to read, read. If you don't understand it, you can use translate. If you don't understand the meaning while you know English, you can just ask questions. And those governance proposals have been voted in by the whales. They have not been voted in by the team. They have been impacted by the team, some of them. They have been influenced by the team, some of them. Of course, why couldn't we do that? Like, the team is also part of the governance, same thing. But there have been other whales who influenced it. There were other council members who influenced it. That's the whole situation. That's called community. That's the whole point. Yes, people influence each other all the time. It's still Web3. Like, it's crazy to me that, like, some people have zero understanding how things work. Like, it's just crazy. They believe, for some reason, that Web3 means that whatever the proposal they make, everybody has to vote for that proposal. That's Web3. Well, that doesn't work. If you make a proposal and people don't vote for that proposal because of influence, yeah, too bad. You can get better influence if you want, and then make another proposal. We'll get to this in a second. So yes, life is not fair. I'm sorry. Like, life is not fair. Not everybody has equal vote. I'm fucking sorry for that. But with Ghost, anybody can make proposals. Anybody can nominate themselves for being a validator. Anybody. You didn't have to be a whale. You can still validate. You can still nominate yourself. You can be in the general group. You don't have to be a whale necessarily to even nominate yourself. Why? Because the governance says that you have to be a whale right now. You can become a whale. You can then just kind of vote for the different proposals saying that anybody can nominate themselves to become a validator, not just whales. And then any non-whales can also nominate themselves. Like, it's a super flexible proposal. These proposals that are elected right now, they're not brick and mortar. They're not set in stone. They're just voted in right now by the community, by a smaller community. So any existing proposals can be overthrown if needed, right? Like, anything can be changed. And the proof of that is on the next slide. But just to summarize, like, on this validator, first of all, congratulations to all the new validators. We only have 3 out of 7. We could have had more. Some people, 2 people specifically, removed their candidacy last second. To be honest, I would vote for both of them. I absolutely would have voted for both of them to be in. So you guys know who you are. So we could have had 5 additional validators. But because of this whole incident, we only have 3. So now we're extending from 10 validators to only 13. That's one. Secondly, for the validators. So the validators on the testnet are elected. Why? Because we are testing functionality, like some of you guys are saying correctly. We're just testing functionality of the testnet. We need to make sure that everything is working. We need to make sure finality works perfect. We need to make sure that the block production time does not increase as more validators join. We need to make sure that slashing works. So we need to only elect those validators who are super responsive and active. Because if something hits the fan, like, we need to know exactly what happened. Like, let's assume slashing did not work as expected. We need to ask you, how did it work? Did it work properly or not? Because it's so much more difficult for us to simulate something new. Why? Because we're not just a simple fucking fork. We're not just a fork of L2 optimism fucking stack. And now we just go ahead, raise lots of money, build new user interfaces and a logo, and we raise $10 million and we resell this package. Like, we're not that. We're building shit from scratch. We're using Substrate. Of course, like, when it's about code, you don't write code from scratch. Nobody fucking writes code from scratch. If you want to do a VBA Visual Basic like thing in Excel, you would always like Google stuff, right? Like you would Google stuff like you have a task that you need to complete. 95% of that code, if not 98, you will copy from the existing libraries, from the existing solutions, and then you would put your own if statements. And those if statements is 2% of the logic. Everything else has been already done online. It's been like this for 2 decades already, if not 3 decades. So of course we don't write everything from scratch. We take libraries, especially for Substrate. Take lots of libraries, lots of palettes, but then we go ahead and customize those palettes for our specific needs. So we need to understand how those palettes work, how they engage with each other. But we still don't know if whatever the final product is working properly. Because it's tough for us to simulate it, because we need to write lots of tests. And even if you're going to write these tests, we're not going to possibly identify all possible scenarios for these tests. So the best course of action for testing is to actually bring this to the field, give it to the users break it, and whatever they break, we implement the changes to. Boom, that's how this works. That's the idea. So we need validators who are super responsive. And if there have been some validators, like last second, 2 validators were changed for two validators that I would have voted for, change it for another 2 validators that I don't know much about. I don't know much about their technical capacity. I don't know much about anything. Like, that was a popularity contest for some people. For me personally, that was a contest of, I need to test the fucking functionality. Can I test the functionality with all the 7 members? No, I can't. I can only test with those 3. That was my personal decision-making stuff. And some of you guys completely misunderstood it. And then you started fighting. Not only fighting, but also doxing private information on Twitter. Unfucking acceptable. Crazy. Like, completely idiotic. I'm sorry, but completely idiotic understanding of how things work. Like, zero understanding. To the point where, like, thank goodness that person left. Because I don't know if that person is going to be like a member. How impactful that opinion will be if there's a complete misunderstanding on the level of testnets. Like, just complete like I don't know. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just, you know, just trying to be truthful, right? But those 3 additional validators, we need them. Why? Because we need to extend the number of validators, right? So we need more people who will understand how this validator stuff works. We need more people who will be operating their machines 24/7. We need to then again test the slashing features. How do they work? Do they really work properly or not? We need to allocate more stakes. We need to then we still need to introduce a new version of the testnet. So let's just bring slightly more validators. So that's supposed to be a super friendly, engaging thing that was turned into this shit show. By complete misunderstanding and lots of stupid fucking rumors. Yet, by the way, the person left, some people left, they can still run nodes. Of course, they can run nodes because Ghost is permissionless. Why wouldn't they be able to run nodes? But they've been accusing us that we are not permissionless. Like, that's fucking crazy. Okay, in any case, the most important thing is Proposal 6. Proposal 6 has been the first historical proposal that has been introduced by a whale, by an outside whale. By a whale who just joined. He's not a member of the team. He's not a member of the council. He's not a member of the old whales who's been with us for like 4+ years. This is a gentleman who joined us quite recently, within the last month or 2. And he was able to run a proposal. He left the group. The proposal is still active. And we need to, today, has been closed as of yesterday, so we need to calculate the results. So far, it's 56% agree, 44% don't agree. That's if everybody has 1 vote. But, we need to calculate the pro rata movement. And the accusations here have been that members of the team, including myself personally, have been impacting this proposal. Of course, we've been impacting these proposals, just like everybody else will be impacting any proposal. That's the whole point. That's why it's called community. It's not just not some random 100 anonymous dudes who don't know each other, and we just like fucking robots. Oh, click the button, yes or no, listen. No. That's not how it works. That's a community. Community has interests. Community has vision. Community has, influence over each other. Some members of communities have other influence, right? And not only that, but the vote has been towards agree at, I think, 80%, maybe even more originally. I personally influenced some people, thank goodness, to vote against it because I think this proposal is completely pointless. It has zero requirements, zero enforceability. Like, even if it's elected, it's just a pointless proposal. Like, it means nothing. The proposal is about adding Ghost Chain to the signature, but there's no repercussions if you don't do it. Like, for example, if you don't do the avatar, you're not a Ghost Whale, therefore you cannot vote. What are the repercussions here? But the person did not run this stuff by anybody. He just he's the smartest person on this planet. He knows everything. So he just decided to push the proposal. And it was poorly phrased. And I voted against it. And some people voted against it. And I influenced some other people to vote against it as well because it's a poor, fucking pointless proposal. Because this proposal has not been run by the community. So that's a lesson. So of course, but the thing is, you can still run a proposal. Name me another project where anybody can any whale can can create a proposal, and it will actually be voted for, and it will actually be considered, and it will be finalized. Name me another project like this, please. Right? I don't know any of these projects. This is insane. So we'll finalize the vote. I think that's a great move for us that the proposal 6 has been it's been definitely toxic. The situation around this thing has been very toxic. The situation around this proposal has been pretty crazy for this entire week. That's fine. That happens. But we're learning the lessons as the community. Hey, maybe you should run the proposal before you publish it. Because if it was a complete proposal of adding the ghost chain signature to yourself with repercussions, and most people would vote for that, I would vote for that as well. Why wouldn't I? I mean, that's amazing for publicity. Yeah, it's definitely, some people said that it's a little bit anti-privacy, JML avatar is too much already. Let's add the signature. That's an extra mile. What the hell? Why should we do it? That's also valid concerns. But I would personally vote for this if it was repercussions as far as if you don't add it, you're not a whale. And I would see that lots of people would vote for it. If 90% of people would vote for it, meaning that they would actively, that's I think what Cosmos was trying to figure out, those people who voted for it, are they adding that to the signature? Some people did, but most people didn't. So if they're voting for the proposal, they're not kind of following through already. Why, how legit, how valid is this agree vote? And we may need to make additional proposals as we improve the governance to better the proposals. Valid question yesterday was from one of the whales. Do people speak? People who voted yes for this, oh no, do people speak in the chat at all? People who vote, period. Do they contribute to discussions? And then another comment from another whale was, yeah, do any of these people who voted yes specifically, do I know who they are? Because how does it work or not? And we could have different debates on this. I don't agree or disagree. I think that if you're a whale, you should be able to vote. But maybe there should be some other proposals saying, hey, listen, only active whales could vote, or only whales who run a node, or only whales who run a node on a physical machine. Maybe we should be making these restrictions. Maybe we should not be making these restrictions. I don't know. But the community need to better the governance, because it's not about how to say, it's not about do you win, do you lose the proposal. It's about the fair governance of actual members who will be impacting the bottom line. If you bring in lots of robots who just vote yes, chances are it's going to be very challenging to bring the TVL. You can mine as many JMV tokens as you want, but you're not going to get the exit. And that's the problem with lots of these airdrop hunters. They unfortunately cannot think step 2 thinking does not apply. It's only step 1, one step forward. You mine lots of this, bullshit XYZ shitcoin, but then you can't withdraw it. You cannot sell it. You think that you're going to be the first one to sell it, but you're not going to be the first one to sell it. No way you're going to be the first one to sell it. And then if you spend if you calculate how much time you spend on those airdrop stuff, that are pointless, you will see that it's easier for you just to get a job. You'll make a lot more money just getting a job. One person can win in the lottery and be successful, sure, and then you can say, oh, I'm not successful because I was not fast enough or whatever. No, you just were not successful because that's a freaking gambling stuff. Just go to the casino if you want to gamble. But if you count the average per hour salary, chances are it's better for you to get a job. With Ghost, we're not doing this stuff. Yes, we have airdrops as well of GMV. You can earn as much as you want, but that stuff is incentivized by bringing new people, by expanding the network. Even some people got gifts for running nodes, one-time gifts. Yeah, but that's not a policy. We don't have a specific policy. If you're running the node and it's active, let's pay you JMV tokens. That way, we will be attracting our own type of crowd, because the second that this incentive is over, those nodes will disappear. Right? That's it. They'll just start selling that stuff. It means that everybody will be not benefiting. It will be detrimental for everybody because the price will drop. And as the price drops, people who believe in the project will also start selling. Like, it's just a vicious circle. Now, what you should be doing differently, I believe, is bring people who are willing to learn about this project. This project is unique. We are not very much different from other pure Web3 projects. You know how they say, every single successful marriage is the same, and every single unsuccessful marriage like has all these weird, crazy fucking stories. So every successful marriage, like every successful Web3, is pretty boring. It's the same. It's permissionless. It's decentralized, right? Like anybody can participate. It's pretty boring. It's pretty boring if you ask me. While Web 2.5, you just don't know what's happening behind the scene of like VCs like raising money, fighting with each other, who's who, like those 10 stakeholders just fight with each other. You just don't know what's happening in the background, but it's happening. It's really really crazy, right? So what I would suggest is just like in any Web3 project, just like in any unique Web3 project, just like Ghost, learn about the project. I think lots of you guys still don't know how it works. What is the consensus protocol? Like we don't have a white paper. The reason why is there's so many different elements of the white paper that need to be accommodated for. We need to make decisions on this with you guys before we publish it. But certain elements are very clear, such as the consensus protocol. Nominated proof of stake, so you have to have a stake. And now you have to think about this, going back to this chart, for example. Like, sure, you can be running 40% of nodes. You can be running 17% of nodes. Now the question is, why should you be running more nodes? Well, because every single validator on the testnet will be swapped for a validator on the mainnet, and they will get that initial allocation. How much? The community will be deciding. Let's assume it's going to be one ghost. Not a lot. Maybe let's assume it's going to be 0.1 ghost. It doesn't matter. You guys are day one validators of the network. You don't need to buy Ghost. Now, future validators, they will have to get the Ghost somehow. They need to buy it on Ghost DAO, on an EVM chain. So let's assume, these 40% of people all swapped out. Let's assume there's another 40% of validators waiting to join when the mainnet joins. Okay, fine. They will not be able to join as validators because they don't have the allocation of one Ghost. They can say, well, let me just buy it on Ghost DAO. Sure, but Ghost DAO price will be impacted by the DEX of V2, which is a curve. And the curve is really fucking aggressive. And today the price is $1, and 5 minutes from today, it's $10 per Ghost. And another 5 minutes from now, it's $100 per Ghost. So now it's just one Ghost, but now you have to pay $100 to get it. You can still be a validator. I'm just saying, and it's available if you have money. But if you don't have money, even to run a VPS, you have to have money. But then, the curve could be very aggressive. We don't know how aggressive it will be. Then after $100, then it can drop back down to $2. Now it's just $2 per Ghost. Anything can happen. But validators who are not at the Genesis will have to buy Ghost to become validators. They'll still be able to be nominators, no problem. You can be a certain node, or nominator cannot be because you don't have a stake. You'll still be able to be a full node. No problem, easy. That's permissionless, absolutely, and you should be doing that because that's going to be your own RPC endpoint. You can be syncing the stuff much faster and interacting with Ghost much faster. Absolutely no problem. But I'm talking about the validator. To be a validator, you have to have a stake. On the testnet, the stake is allocated to you guys, right? On the mainnet, it will also be allocated to those who have been with us since the testnet. That's the incentive, right? And other validators will have to buy Ghost on the market, on the DEX, or on the Ghost DAO through the bond. That's it. Or from other people, right? So it's very important. The whole point is it's kind of important to do this. It's important to run as many nodes as you can in a sustainable fashion, because if you run the nodes now, you'll get this initial allocation. If you want to run the nodes later after the mainnet, you'll have to purchase Ghost for every single node. But let me open up this other risk to you guys, right? Let's assume one person is running 50 nodes. Okay, great. So they have one Ghost. They got this initial allocation. Congratulations. Now they can run 50 nodes in a sustainable fashion. They have 3 super powerful machines. They have virtual machines on each one, or 15 virtual machines on every single one of these powerful machines that have 50 nodes. No problem. That's amazing. So one Ghost per node. But then the governance decides to raise the limit from 1 Ghost per node to 2 nodes per node. to become a validator. So now this person with 50 machines, 50 nodes, they have to purchase additional ghosts still off the market. The reason why we would be raising the limit from 1 ghost to 2 ghosts to 5 ghosts to 100 ghosts as a governance is because we want to make sure we are having a nice balance between 51% attack on the network overnight with the limit is not big enough for it to still be more or less permissionless. With Ethereum in particular, 32 Ethereum, that's a lot. That's 100 grand. How many people have 100 grand to become a validator? That's a lot of money. And the reason I think why they're doing that is because they want to avoid the 51% attack. They are a very, very huge network. I don't think we should be starting with $100,000 minimum required, right? I don't think we should ever get to that limit. But 1 ghost is $1. So I can spend, I don't know, $100, purchase 100 ghosts, spend out 100 nodes and capture the network. So in order to prevent all of us from that risk, while we sleep, right? In order for all of us to prevent against that risk, well, of course we'll be raising limits. As a community on the governance, validators will be voting for that together. Let's raise it to 2%. And let's assume one person asked this question. That's a great question. Let's assume on the testnet, this clan and this clan decide to work together. They decide, quote, quote, to influence each other. Because that's not Web3 for some reason. Fucking stupid. Of course it's Web3. They can influence each other however they want. So 40% decides to work together with 17%. So now there's 57% of the network. And they say, you know what? We are voting against it. Like, we don't want to increase the limit to ghosts per node. We got to stick to one ghost because we want to capture the network. We have 57%. We want to capture that. That will force the other clans, or maybe new clans or new users, to go and rapidly purchase Ghost off the market on GhostDAO and spawn nodes super fast to make sure that this 57% is no longer 57%, and then reinitiate the vote and maybe increase the limit. And you think this is lots of risk? Yes. Welcome to actual Web3. Welcome to pure Web3. If this is too much, maybe Ghost is not for you. Go to Chiliz. They have 11 nodes. You'll never become a node. Just buy the fucking token. It will dump on you by the VCs. That's it. But there's no real change you're going to make in this world. There are many ways to make money. Go to AI. It's really hyped right now. Everybody says that AI will be, I was trying to do the stock market analysis the other day using certain platforms. It's impossible to, you cannot even copy paste the data correctly. What AI are you talking about? But they're, selling this down your throat that AI is the next big thing. Go to AI, make money there. 3D printing will probably come back. Go there, make money there. You are in Web3, in my opinion, because you want to make a change. I spoke yesterday to somebody, to essentially this nationality in one of the countries. I'm not going to disclose the country or the nationality. They told me and showed me footage. The person went to that country. Now, if he goes back to this country, he's a citizen of the country, he can be arrested. Different religion, different ethnic group, that he can be arrested for anything, he cannot come back. He speaks the language, he's a citizen. He went there to college, for college, he's a native tongue language, that he speaks it. But he cannot come back. Right? That's 21st century. He showed me footage of people in handcuffs, in this old school handcuffs from that specific ethnicity. It's crazy. It's 21st century. You want that? You want dictatorship? By the government. You think developed countries are not dictator countries? Total dictator countries. The control has been stolen from us. They can introduce any type of fucking laws. You cannot do shit about it. You cannot do shit about it right now as an average citizen. Nothing. Because they know better. Sure, they know better. Absolutely. They definitely know better. Certain thing. Absolutely. But then you don't stand a chance. Right? So Web3, the barrier to entry is so low, you can actually change the world. You can actually create a system that you can use yourself. You can benefit from yourself. You don't need those fucking centralized exchanges. You don't need to do KYC, whatever else. You don't need to report. You have to report whatever in your local country. It's up to you, but it's not required. They don't report on your behalf. You report on your behalf. Whatever you want to report, up to you. Right? That's what we're fighting for. If you hear, because Ghost is just another airdrop, you should leave. Like, that's not the project for you. Like, really, like, just don't waste your time, and definitely don't waste our time. We are building something beautiful. We're building a decentralized ecosystem that can unite all EVM chains together. That's the first step. Once, if we are successful with that, we may expand to other blockchains, maybe Solana, maybe UTXO chains like Bitcoin, Monero, Zcash, and Litecoin, etc. Maybe we can expand to Near protocol at some point. Maybe we can expand to Algorand at some point, right? So we can be expanding to other protocols. At this point in time, it's EVMs, which is roughly 40%. As far as TVL, that's I think maybe 90% of all the TVL in the smart contracts. The only others are Solana and Tron, which is not that much as far as TVL. As far as market cap, Ethereum alone is $500 billion, right? So we're looking at almost $1 trillion market cap of chains that we can unite together. And you can be trading coins, tokens, whatever, through Ghost in a decentralized fashion without any KYC, without any requirement, without your funds being frozen, without Coinbase Exchange not fucking working every single time there's a 5% drawdown. That's the beautiful thing. That's what we're building. We're building decentralized bridges, right? Through this super incentive based ecosystem. It's so cool that people fought to become a validator on a testnet. That's a proof of how incentives are fucking great in this ecosystem. But this is not an airdrop play by no means. This is something that like you need to put your heart into it, definitely your brains into it, if you believe in it. And if you don't believe in it, you can just be a bystander. And if you don't understand, you should ask questions. And if you don't like it, or if you are looking for some fast gains without trying to learn what this ecosystem does, this is not for you. Like, trust me, this is just not for you. You should leave. Just to save your time. Okay, so proposal 6 will be finalized. Now, the interesting thing is, and we'll wrap up now, is this week, the reason why it's so busy, it became busy because of this whole, confusion, conflict, whatever, around the validator stuff. But what we wanted to do, we wanted to ask your opinions, especially those people who voted yeses so fast, right? Like about about stuff that actually mattered. And we didn't get much feedback. We got feedback from validators. We got some feedback from the old whales, some from some of the councils. We didn't get much feedback from the new guys. That's a problem. That's a real problem. Like the new guys, you should learn how this thing works. I know that you may be involved with like 10 other projects, 20 other projects. That's fine. But again, like pick your battles. Like learn more. Ask questions. Ideally, list of questions, right? And try to learn. There's a reason why we are growing at 1-2 nodes per day. There's a reason. And this reason is not because we're so great at business development. The reason is because the incentives are in place. That's why we're growing. I love to believe that, at least, right? Because that's a testnet. We are beating mainnet chains with actual incentives on a fucking testnet with $0 of advertising budget. Like, this needs to be understood. This is a unique situation, a unique project. That's how you should treat it. We didn't get much feedback for the slashing. So thank you, everybody who voted. So we got yes, no, don't know for the poll. That's cool. But the specific feedback that Pierre was asking on slashing, like these 3 types of slashing, we didn't get, I think we got 0 feedback on that. You guys should read that. You guys should think about it. You should think about how other projects, read about how other projects doing slashing, and think about like what slashing should be, because we have 2 different types of transactions. We have transactions within Ghost, right, from one Ghost wallet to another Ghost wallet. We also have transactions from an EVM to Ghost, from Ethereum to Ghost. And both of these, like the transactions within Ghost, are more or less straightforward. Like we can just take that stuff from Polkadot. But as far as the curve and stuff, but what about the slashing on the bridges? Like, how should we slash it? If somebody is being malicious, if validators are sharing malicious information, like what should they be bonding? How much they should be slashed? That's a very important and novel concept. The reason why it's novel, because nobody has it. And the reason why nobody has it is the proof that we are the only ones who are actually building decentralized bridges. Period. Because if we had it, we would just try to be inspired by it. There's nothing like this. So this is a completely new, brand new element of slashing of transactions, slashing malicious actors when they maliciously validate transactions from EVM to Ghost and also from Ghost to EVM. So those two. Nobody gave us any feedback. Please reread that. Please give us some stuff. That's of course pretty painful for us to fight with, with like fake rumors, with somebody who has no fucking idea about Web3, and they show their face clearly by not being able to have any feedback on this stuff, for example. Right? So that's just painful. That's just like painful to realize that we're just wasting our time on some of the whales. Now, Ghost testnet V3 staking curve. We got very little feedback as well on this one. Like, that's the feedback we want, right? The feedback will actually be used, right? Like, we have our, it's easy for us to make decisions. It's not that. It's more like, what do you guys think? What are you guys gonna be okay with, right? Like, you can actually impact certain things. We got, I think, only 2 or 3 feedbacks for this one in particular. What should be points 1, 2, and 3B for the staking curve? This is the staking curve APY. Let's assume it's at 10%. So what happens is this is from 0 to 100. This is how much Casper is being bonded by validators. So we have, say, 13 validators. Let's assume they all bond 100%. So all of the Casper they're given is bonded, right? In each case, only 3% of the 10% will be allocated to validators. The other 7% will be allocated towards treasury, and that 7% treasury will then be spread around, ecosystem partners or just users or node operators. Why? Because there's no speed of money, there's no velocity of money, there's no exchange, because all the funds, right? Because validators represent a significant portion of not just 13 validators. I'm talking about the mainnet. On the mainnet, the validators represent a significant percent of stake, and if all of that stake is bonded and not used, that should be penalized, because the network has to be live. Tokens have to exchange hands. Now here, this is the optimal phase here. 10% of the 10%, so it means, all of the 10% goes to the validators, because only 75% of the Casper tokens are staked by validators. The other 25% are in circulating supply. And this point is, if nobody, if validators are not staking anything, right, how much inflation should be here? So we're saying essentially, kind of this point doesn't mean much, because if there's no stake, if nobody is staking, then you cannot possibly have the APY period. But if, let's assume, only 10% is being staked and 90% is in circulating supply, that's also not good. Then only 3.5% of this inflation will go towards validators. The other, because that's too much of the circulating supply. So essentially, the game here, the question here is, how much of the circulating supply should be allowed, and what are the incentives? Like, what is this point here based on the y-axis? What about this one based on x and y-axis? And what is this one based on the y-axis? What parameters should be set for these points, for this curve? We didn't get much feedback. That's the feedback we need. Finally, we didn't get much feedback here, which is also pretty crazy. So we originally decided 100 Casper per validator, 69 goes towards the validator stake, that's the minimum, and then 31 goes to the stash, right? The 31% is this free supply, right? That's roughly 70 to 30%, right? That's pretty much roughly what we wanted to achieve here, right? This is 75-25. Here it's roughly 69 to 31%, obviously. But what should the new balance be? So with this new testnet V3, we're going to start from block 0 again, from the Genesis block again. So what should be the balances of validators? How much the validators should get, and how much the node operators should get? So this time we also want to allocate some Casper to node operators as well. Should it be random? How should it be awarded? How, right? Because then we would like to keep engaging this Casper, because this Casper can then be used for voting. This Casper can be used for validating. How do you vote on Ghost? You need to bond certain Ghost coins in order to become a voter. How does that work, right? So those are the questions that we need to be discussing. And again, I don't think we're getting that much feedback on this stuff. So please, specific feedback we're looking for: slashing, the V3 staking curve APY, and Casper giveaway. I think we have one more question to ask you guys this week, because we need to try to relaunch the V3 on January 20. Trump is coming to power, new government, new life. Casper will Ghost V3 will also come on January 20. New chain, new life. We'll see how that works. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your participation. Let's keep it going in Ghost We Trust. See you guys next week.